everybody. It's Yolanda and
Dr. Angel.
and we are here tonight on the Rise. So good to see you all. So glad that you're joining us tonight for our next live segment. So I'll be honest with you, I was worried about even getting this thing started tonight with all these thunderstorms going on in the area. I don't know if you've been experiencing that, Dr. Angel.
Yes, it's been raining on and off. We've had downpours. We have a severe thunderstorm warning going on right now. So, yeah, it's crazy weather all up and down the East Coast,
I
I
think
guess.
so. I was a little nervous earlier. We had some hail coming down. I was like, I'm not quite sure if we're going to be able to do this if these lights going to hold us. So,
Right.
so I was really grateful that we were able to join you all tonight because we had no idea what was going to happen. And they're calling for additional thunderstorms tonight. So y'all pray for us that the lights stay on and everybody stays okay because there's a lot of down trees, down bushes and stuff like that. So I'm sure it's the same up there with you, right?
Yeah, we got some flooding going on, and you know how it gets. We live right near the Delaware River, the Schuylkill River. There's all kinds of other little ponds going on.
Yes.
So lots of stuff likes to flood when we have lots of water. So,
Yes.
please, everyone, wherever you are, be safe. Do what you got to do, and we hope the lights stay on. And I know some of y'all trying to watch Bobby Brown versus later on tonight. So I know y'all praying that your Wi-Fi stays. So watch us, and then we go watch the versus.
Not the Bobby Brown person.
I don't even
Listen,
know who
well,
he
you
versus. I
know,
don't even care.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, well, we should be off by the time the Bobby Brown verses comes on. So if y'all want to watch the verses, y'all can go ahead and watch it after this. We won't hold you up that long, but we did want to ask you before we jump into the topic tonight, because we're going to be continuing our series on wellness, our 8 dimensions of wellness, and we'll get to that in a second. But first, we wanted to make sure that you join us on our social media sites so that you can know when we're going live and when we have new updates to share. And that is at On the Rise Talk on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and also on the Rise Talk Show on YouTube. It streams there at the same time that it streams here on Facebook Live. So if you want to join us and you don't do Facebook, you can also do this. You can also join us on actually on the Rise Talk Show on YouTube. So I know there's a bunch of people that have been joining us there. So glad you all have liked and subscribed. We are so appreciative for all of your support and all of the wonderful feedback we have been getting back from you guys. So tonight we're going to delve into financial wellness. So y'all
Yeah.
hold on to your bootstraps because Dr. Angel is going to run us through the 8 dimensions of wellness. And we have completed this tonight will be like 5 or 6 of the 8. And
I
we
think
have
it's
2 more additional to go. But I'm going to let her run it down right now for you all in case you've forgotten the ones we've done or you want to go back and check them out online. So I'm going to kick it to you, Dr. Angel.
all right. So far we have covered emotional, social, occupational, intellectual, and environmental. Tonight, we're going to talk about financial, and then we still have spiritual and physical to go.
All right. So true. So true. Thank you, Dr. Angel, for doing that. I feel like you're like one of those Vanna White talk show hosts. Take it away, Vanna. It's so funny. And when I just did that, I was like, I just kicked it to her like we were doing Wheel of Fortune or something. That was just too funny. I couldn't let that one go.
Yeah.
All right. So, Dr. Angel, introduce us to what exactly is financial wellness?
Yes. So, financial wellness is satisfaction with current and future financial situations.
Yes.
Whew.
Yes. I know. All right, we're gonna have to
Yeah,
take a deep breath before we delve into this tonight because we know this is a touchy topic for a lot of people.
yeah, yeah,
This is
it
a really
is.
touchy topic. And I
Yeah,
think this past year has made it so you're either on one side or the other. It feels like with a lot of people, either during the pandemic, you pivoted and you figured out a way to make it work for you, or you were in a profession that was cut or shut down. And it seems like a lot of people struggled. There was a lot of families who struggled this past year, with their finances and just keeping food on the table, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, especially for people who worked jobs that may have been hourly, work jobs that were in the service industries, things like that, there was a huge shift, right? And trying to figure out how were we going to make ends meet. I think the other piece was we talked a lot, through the pandemic about essential workers and really recognizing, depending on what end of the spectrum you were on, what that meant for you, right?
Yeah.
Whether it was you were an essential worker who was a nurse or a doctor who had to go in. And so almost your hours and salary were guaranteed, but you were risking your life.
Yes.
Or whether you were someone who was considered essential, but you were hourly and it was kind of like you have to go in, but you're not making that much money. And what does that mean? So there were all these things that happened financially and people who lost their jobs because it was just like, yeah, you're in this industry, but we're closing down. And so there were all these shifts. And if you didn't have money put away, or if you had already used money for something else, let's say you had savings, but you had just bought a house or you had just had some major life thing come up, all of a sudden, maybe that money was gone. And so you were in these really uncertain financial times.
Absolutely. And it's kind of like, you found a lot of people, if you were not taught good money management or you were not taught those skills, right? It's really hard to come up with those in the middle of a pandemic. So, so that also ties into another, all the other dimensions, right? So like we talk about how, our finances can actually affect a lot of the other dimensions of wellness, like emotions, like your social situation, like your environmental situation, right? So your occupational situation is also affected by that, right? So it's like you can't pull this piece is so essential. It's like a linchpin almost to all of the other pieces, because really your finances kind of dictate your freedom to move between all of these different wellness spaces. So
yeah, they do. They absolutely do.
Yep. So one of the things we're going to talk about tonight is we're going to start delving into some of these areas. And Dr. Angel and I are going to talk about some strategies and some different ways that these kind of affect those different areas. And I'm going to start with saying, so I know there are those of you out there, like one of the ways we think we're being well is we do retail therapy, right? So as soon as we feel sad about something, we go shopping.
Hey.
And that is not always a good thing, because when you do emotional spending, it affects your actual emotions, right? So you feel good for the moment, and then the bills come in, and then you don't feel so good. And then it's like, oh man, I got to pay all these bills off that I just created because I was not feeling well, or I wasn't in a good place, or I'm mentally, struggling with something. And actually, it's kind of like a vicious circle, because then you end up looping back and feeling worse, because now I'm like, the guilt, the shame, all that stuff comes with, oh my goodness, I spent money that I don't have in my bank account, right?
Yeah. And I think part of it too is, unfortunately, there's this space where sometimes our self-worth is tied to what we have.
Yes.
Right. And so I'm feeling really, really bad. Let me go buy this thing that makes me look better. Right. I can dress a certain way. I can carry a certain bag. I can drive a certain car.
Yes.
And so now I feel like my self-worth is increased, but my bank account may not support that.
Right.
And so then, right? So
yes.
Then again, like you said, it gets me in this emotional spot of, oh my goodness, am I having anxiety?
Yep.
Because I have to look at these bills.
Yep.
Am I temporarily on a high because I walked into the store and I bought this thing, but now the credit card bill came, right? And like you said, it's this vicious circle because until I really deal with my own internal feelings of self-worth,
Yep.
I'm really never going to feel what I really need to feel. But I'm thinking I can charge it, I can spend it, I can whatever. And if I really don't have the financial ability to do that, then I'm not going to get to that space. And sorry, newsflash, even if I do have the financial ability to do it, if I haven't dealt with my issues of self worth,
Yes.
it's still not going to fix the problem. But it's even
Yes.
worse if I'm keeping up with the Joneses or keeping up with the Lupton.
You are so right. And then the part of that is, isn't it just masking one thing with another, right? Because we
Yeah.
haven't dealt with the
Yeah.
root issue of what we're really trying to hide with whatever we're buying. And so money is really a mindset, right? And then
Yeah.
money is a tool. Money is not going to pump up our egos and make us feel better. Although a lot of people feel better when they're driving the car or they're doing whatever. But all of that is so temporary if we haven't dealt with the real internal issues that we have going on. And I think sometimes people use that to mask these other problems and these other things that we really need to deal with. But until we get our money right, right? Until we get our mind, actually, it's really a mindset because, again, like I said, money is a tool. Until we get our money mindset right, we will always think money will solve problems when really if we don't have the right mindset around money actually just creates more problems because a lot of us didn't grow up with financial literacy. You know, we did whatever we saw done in our environments, right? And so our mindset about money may be a little off if we haven't examined why we're spending. Why are we spending certain things? And then the other question is, what are you saving? What are you investing? How are you planning for your future? Right? And so many times we're really not, right? We're living for the whole you only live once, the whole YOLO thing. And we're talking about, oh yeah, just go VIP, buy bottle service, do whatever. And we're not taking care of those responsibilities are really essential to our foundation of feeling secure. And for women, financial security is a big thing, right? Because if we're, even if you're married, right? I'm married and you're single, but even that is a source of us feeling secure and well with ourselves, right? Just having those things where you don't have to worry about where you're going to, how you're going to pay for food and groceries and rent and, your mortgage and all those things are a big part of our feeling, safe and secure.
And stable. Yeah, and stable. I think, and I've shared this with you before, but one of the biggest things for me, lessons in my life was that my father left my mother in a very ugly way where he told her to quit her job and then the next day didn't come home from work, right? And so for me, the lesson was you have to be able to take care of yourself, right? So that if any man ever leaves you, you know how to take care of yourself. The other problem was my mother did not teach me financial responsibility, right? So it was like, she didn't teach me budgeting. I'll say it that way. So it was like, here's your allowance. Once you spend it, it's gone. But it wasn't like, well, here's how you budget your allowance.
Right.
Or if you have a job, that's your money and you have to do it and nobody's going to help you out. But budgeting wasn't taught. But I did have this mentality that I have to take care of me. But I think there's this space where, unfortunately, a lot of women believe like, well, if I get married, I don't have to worry about it so much. Or if I'm not by myself, I don't have to worry about this. I only have to do this as long as I'm single. But if I'm partnered up, then I don't have this responsibility. And the reality is, girl, you need to know how to take care of yourself regardless.
Exactly. And you need to be asking questions, right? Yeah. Even if you're married, even if you're in a relationship, you need to be asking questions about where is the money going? You need to know your cash flow. What is coming into the house? And what are we spending? What are our expenditures, right? And you brought that up so eloquently, Angel. I think, even in my home as a child, my parents didn't discuss budgeting or things like that. But they paid their bills. They did those, but they didn't show us how to do that, right?
Right.
They did it. We knew the light stayed on. We knew there was water. We knew, all of these things. But our parents didn't sit us down and really show us how do you budget and how do you pay the bills and stuff like that. I know for me being married, my parents kept all of their finances separate, right? My mom paid certain bills, my dad didn't. My husband and I don't do that, right? So we decided to do things different so that we could actually budget together and we could have goals that we achieve together instead of it being separate, because as you know, as a team you can get more done than you can as an individual, right? So pooling resources actually help. I know this is not always popular in today's society of pooling resources, but we have a unique way that we do it. So I have my own personal account that I am on. He has his own personal account that he is on, and then we have an account that we pay all the bills out of. So we put all of the money into that account except for an allowance that we give ourselves out of that. So we budget an allowance, whether you get paid weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, you get a certain allowance, and we get the same amount of allowance so that you have a certain amount of autonomy. So I'm not asking him when I want some money out of the account like a little kid, right? Can I spend? But we have rules around, boundaries around what gets spent out of the joint account. And we also have savings accounts that we send money to on a regular basis, so that we have a savings account and we have a checking account that we can pull from. So I think those things are very important, that you and your partner, or if you're by yourself, you still should have accounts where you're sending money, your savings automatically to, so you can have that money for a rainy day or when things go wrong. I call it I borrow from myself, right? It's the Bank of Yolanda. So I don't have to go borrow from somebody else. I can go borrow from the money that I've saved myself. And so that does give you a sense of, not to say that, money, it is the only way to feel safe, but I think there's wisdom around that too, right? There's wisdom in spending some, saving some, giving some away, whether that's to your church or to a charity, so that you feel a sense of responsibility for others too. I think that keeps us from being greedy, for lack of a word, and selfish, right? That we are able to do those things, and that is the gratitude that you come to when you're able to do that. So.
But Yolanda, I think you said some really important things in there. Actually, all the way through, you said some really important things. But I think one of the things, I'll go backwards, is this money mindset, right?
Yes.
That I specifically had to change my mindset, right? Because like you said, growing up, our parents did things a certain way. My grandparents were born in 1905 and 1908. They came through the Depression. They came from the South and migrated up. So money was something very different to them, and how they raised my mother and my aunt and my uncle around money was very, very different.
Yes.
Right. And so my mother raised me financially the best way she could, based on how my grandparents raised her. Right. So I can't shame and blame and because they were absolutely doing the best that they could. However, I just was not taught money in the way that I know now.
Yes.
So I absolutely had to shift my mindset. And it took a long time. And I think there's also that space of, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it, but that it's never too late to change your mindset.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I have a very good friend who helped me with that, because my friend has this saying that it's just money.
Yep.
And when my friend used to say this to me, I was like, what are you talking about? Because again, thinking about where my parents and my grandparents came from, holding on to money was so important. And so I have this friend it's just money. It's just money. When I got that and was like, you're right, it's just money, it brought my anxiety all the way down.
Yes.
So that was the first thing, shifting my mindset. And then what you said about these different bank accounts. So I have my regular bank account. I have my savings account that's just okay, let's put some money into savings. When you need it, you can pull from it.
Yeah.
And then I have my other savings account that is that long term. We don't touch that in case we really, really need to touch that. So I think even that idea of, we have these savings accounts for ourselves, right?
Yep.
And these different accounts for ourselves. That's the whether you're married or single,
Yes.
hey,
Yes.
maybe I need to borrow from Angie. Maybe I need to borrow from Dr. Angel. But also that we understand that we often may have to change our own mindsets. That even though I knew I had to take care of myself financially, I didn't know how. And a
Yes.
lot of that was trial and error. Some of that was learning from my friends, right? That had different money mindsets
Yes.
and being open to that and being
Yes.
open to say, what are they doing? Some of it wasn't asking questions. Some of it was just watching and being like, hey,
Right.
what are they doing? Some of it was some of my friends, you included, sitting down and going, hey, this is a budget. Let's help you with doing a budget, right? But
Yes.
being open to those things and being able to say, okay, I tried this didn't work. Let me try again so that I can now be in a space where it's like, okay, I'm good.
Yes.
And I still have more to learn. And if we get into this space where we don't keep our minds open to learn more, we'll get stuck. So I
Absolutely.
think that's the other space, and recognizing, which I know we'll get to, that there are going to be other goals we have to keep growing on
Yes.
as life changes.
Yes. And I think that's where the whole piece about, and you're very right. There the challenges that are those who came before us faced were different, right? We have different education levels, we have different access to things. I totally agree with you on that. But it does affect initially how we see our money, like you said, our mindset. And for me, that was a lot of reading, a lot of research and actually I went to business school, so that's when I started changing my mindset. Like, wow, people use money like this. And that's why earlier I said money is a tool, right? When you start thinking of money as being a tool, then you can start thinking of it like anything else, like the tools that we use every day. Like, for example, we use a word processing program when we want to write, right? So that's a tool. That's a tool for us to get ideas out of our head and onto something that we can share with others. When we go outside, we use a lawnmower to mow our yard. It is a tool. It mows we have to push it, right? Even with
Yep.
knowledge, we have to write it down. But the tool is the lawnmower and it gets the yard cut, right? Money is a tool. I'm trying to get people to see that because it's just what you said. So many times we hold on to it, not realizing it can be a tool for many things, right? Money can be a tool for investments that can keep you stable long term. Money can be a tool for freedom. When you have a certain amount, then you can do different things. Money can be a tool for health access. Money can be a tool, you know what I mean? There's so many ways you can use it. And I think sometimes we don't think like that. How money can be used to help free us from some things and to help us with our in general wellness, right? When so I'm gonna link it back to what we talked about with the other areas, right? Occupational wellness. What if you don't like your job, but you've saved up enough money or you have enough investments, you can leave your job, right? That's how you use your money as a tool, right? Now I have enough that I can sustain myself for 6 to 12 months that I can go out either and start a business, or I can go and find another job, or I can take a break. I could take a sabbatical and spend some time with my friends and family that I have not seen, maybe because I've been working all the time. So that is how I want you to start. Like, that's how I want people to start thinking. Money is a tool to get us to a place that we want to go. But to know where you want to go, you have to make some goals around your money, some goals around your life. How do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years, right? What short and long-term goals are you all looking at, right? That's going to take us to sit down and think and plan and look at where we are. And like you said earlier, Angel, it is never, ever too late to start. I don't want anybody out there to feel ashamed about what they've done in the past. Up until now, we all had that aha moment where we went, you know what? This is not working. I need to figure something else out. I'm tired of being broke. I'm tired of always like having to borrow or rob Peter to pay Paul. I think that, yes, I know that there are some inequality challenges with the way with jobs and, all those things like that. But my mama always told me, and this is where I do love my mother. She was like, no matter what you have, save a little bit.
Yep.
And make sure
Yep.
she had 3 things. She said, save a little bit, keep a little money for a rainy day. She's like, I don't care if it's got to be $2 that you put aside a week. You need to save something, right, for a rainy day. 2, she was like, be giving. She's like, because you cannot either give or receive if your hand is like this. She's like, you have to keep your hand open to give and receive. And the other thing is, she said, always pay yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
She said, pay yourself first. And let me tell you, my mother was not, my mother had an 8th grade education, but she worked hard. And there were days I know she gave us her last, but at least she was smart enough to have that. And that's where the wisdom about our money comes in, right? We need both in order to manage our money successfully. That means we're going to have to be financially literate. We're going to have to start reading. We're going to have to start, like Dr. Angel said, how her friend changed her mind about how she thought about money. We're going to have to start talking to people, like she said, find people that can model it for you. No one's saying you have to do this all on your own. And if not, there are books and websites that you can go to help you start seeing different ways that people use money and how you can change your money mindset to help you become more well in what you're doing. Not just for you, but when you get a different mindset about money and people see that, then they'll want to know what you know, right? I mean, I think it just starts with us asking questions, right?
Yeah. And I think that's the other piece that gets tricky, because there are some people that you can't talk to about money, right? And knowing who to talk to and who not to talk to. Because you may run into somebody, and I've run into those folks, that will shame you or are braggadocious or act like they have it all together and they don't. You got to have discernment. You don't talk to everybody about everything. You don't talk to everybody about your money. So being wise about who you do talk to is important, because if you talk to the wrong person, it may make you feel like you need to coil up and stay in the same stuck space. And that's not helpful.
No.
So really being wise around, okay, if I don't know this thing, who can I talk to? I remember watching a lot of Susie Orman when I was sitting in the space, like, I don't know what's going on, but I don't know if I'm anybody.
I like her.
She had watching her so faithfully, and also recognizing, like, oh, she said don't do that, and I did that. How am I going to do that differently? And also being able to say, I don't know if I know how to do that or if I can make that change right now, but that's a change I want to make in the future. Right?
Yes. And I think sometimes everybody's situation is different.
That's that part.
Everybody's situation is different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, we have to, and that's so important. You have to realize where you are. Like, I like to look at people like there's people that are on the same level as I am, right? And so we have these great conversations about how do we get to the next level or the next thing. Like, so you may be at where you don't own a home yet, right? And you may know somebody that owns a home, and you can talk to them about, hey, when you started looking at buying a home, what types of things did you look at? What types of things should I be aware of? What types of things should I budget for? Right? Because that at that point, you know, I didn't own a home. So I started talking to people who actually owned a home. So I would know what to expect when I started looking into buying a home. Then there's people, they're just coming out of college. They might talk to you because you're renting, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. What should I look for when I'm renting a home? What should I be? Should I get renter's insurance? Should I, you know, all of these different things. How much money should I budget, right? A monthly. Talk about calculators for how much home can you afford or rent, you know, and rent. So these are all these things that we have to think about when we're moving in those next phases of life. And honestly, we all didn't learn them at the same time, and we all didn't get there at the same time. And so we need to have grace and be mindful that there are people coming behind us and there's people in front of us, right, that we can talk to. Like you said, use discernment, but there are people that can help you along these milestones along the way. And, you know, for me, I have like my 3Ds of financial wellness,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yes.
number one is you have to determine your goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you shooting for? What do you want to do? So, listen, some people don't want to own a home. Some people want to rent because they want to travel. Some people
Right.
don't want to own a car, right? They want to rent a car because they don't drive that much, or you know.
Yeah.
So you have to determine what your goals are and where do you want to end up, because I think this will drive a lot of your decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
that's where we get that anxiety and that whole, you know, we get really scared. And then you have to determine a budget that's going to get you and keep you where you want to go. And I think there are a lot of websites and stuff like that that can do a basic budget. I know people that wouldn't even know what's in their bank account from week to week.
But
That
Yolanda, I
is,
think we
you
also
have to
have to
figure
be,
that stuff out, right?
yeah, but I think we also have to be honest about the costs of certain things, right? So
Yes.
I owned a home before and now I'm renting. And when I bought my home, it was like, you should own a home, you should own a home. And nobody talked about the additional expenses that go into owning a home,
Yes.
right? I'm renting now, and I'm a college professor, but I'm in an industry where you can work in this college, and maybe you want to move and teach at another college, but it's going to be in another state. And until you decide, okay, am I going to stay here and go for tenure, or am I going to go someplace else? Doesn't make sense to look into buying another home, or do you want to rent until you? So looking at what would be the expense for you to buy a
Yes.
home, and then try to sell it, and then
Yes.
try to buy again. So I think the other piece of making these decisions around your goals is looking at what are the financial implications
Yes.
of your goals, because it's
Yes.
nice to have this big lofty goal, right? I can buy this big beautiful car. How much does it cost to maintain it?
Exactly.
Buy
Exactly.
this big beautiful house. How much does it cost to maintain it? And we make these goals without looking at all the other costs that come with it.
That's called counting the cost, Angel.
Yes.
Counting the cost. And you know that's, you know, what you said is a very biblical principle, because we're supposed to count the cost before we think about building or doing anything.
Yes.
And I think
Yes.
sometimes we get caught up in the hype of culture, right? Where, oh yeah, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Yeah, but does that work for you? Is that what you want to do long term? You brought up some very good things. And then the other part of that is, what if my goal is, while I'm living here, I'm going to buy a home, but I want to decide that I want it to be a rental property
Yeah.
that will generate
Yeah.
income for me when I leave.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
I mean. You have to determine what your goals are. Do you want to be a real estate investor? Okay, great. If you're going to live somewhere and you decide that this is something you can afford at that moment, or you want to buy a home and work on it and fix it up while you're there and then rent it when you leave, if that's your goals, that's why we have to be honest with ourselves about what we can do. And just like you said, I love that you said that. We have to count the cost. Well, to count the cost, you're going to have to do the second D. You're going to have to do your due diligence, right? You're
That
going to
part.
have to look into, what will this cost me long term? What's my end game on this? Like, do I want to hold this property 5 years, 10 years? What kinds of do I have kids? Do I need to send them to college? Do I want to buy a house now so that I can have it paid off later? Do I want to, I mean, there's so many different scenarios, and you don't have to do all this alone. You can also get a certified financial planner to help you with this. So you can look at different things like insurance. You can look at different things like 401k plans. You can look at investment plans. What if I get an investment property? What are the tax ramifications of this? What do I need to know about? Like, I know it can seem overwhelming, but it's just like we talked about. There are people out there that we actually have a website that's going to be a resource, right, for certified financial planners. There are people out there, this is their job. This is what they do. One thing I love about the site I'm going to give you for the certified financial planners is they actually have a list of questions you can interview and ask people who you
That's
may
good.
be potential financial planners with you. And when you go in there, you should have your goals of what you want to do, because they're going to ask you. I know I've been through it myself. They're going to ask you, what do you want to do in the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Where do you see your long game? Where do you see yourself retiring? I don't think we really spend enough time reflecting on these kind of questions and doing our homework. And I think that's one of the things that we have to get more financially literate, so we are able to address these things. But there are people out there that will work with you if you don't have a starting point and you really need some help around you. There are professionals that will help you.
Yeah, and that's so important. That's so important. And I think the piece that you said about having those questions, because again, when we talk about how we grew up, we didn't necessarily know that those resources existed. So how would we know the questions to ask? So utilizing those questions to say, okay, hey, here are the questions that I need to ask that I didn't even know about.
Yeah. I think that especially in our Black community, the wealth numbers are kind of scary for me. Looking at them, women are not saving for retirement as we should. It scares the bejeebus out of me when I look at those numbers about how many Black women end up in poverty in their old ages and not able to pay for health insurance or have money to take care of their basic needs. It is heartbreaking when I see the numbers, and how the wealth gap between Black families and white families and other families of color is very huge. And so we really need to be paying attention to what we're doing. I do realize there are struggles when you're in some of these low wage paying jobs to be able to have extra money. And sometimes that may mean you can start a business or do something on the side to help you. And that will, all the extra money that you get, you may be able, I've done that before where, you do things on the side, or you have another business or work an extra job. And I know that's crazy for some people, but if you have a short-term goal, or there's you have a goal where you say, I want to save up X amount of money, right? So you work it until you save that X amount of money up, and then you can hopefully fall back to just one job. But there's different strategies that we have to use in order for ourselves to move ourselves along financially. And I'm not saying all of these have to be done forever, but I'm saying that there are goals that we need to set for ourselves and our families so that we are in better positions moving forward. So
I think that also goes back to what you were saying about there never being too little that you can save, right?
Yep.
Putting $5 away a paycheck adds up. Getting more money, adding more money as you're making more money adds up.
Yes.
I think the other thing that we really do have to think about is putting money into our 401ks or whatever our companies offer. I'm fortunate to work for an organization that matches my contribution, right? And I think, there was a time when I was a lot younger where it was like, I don't want them taking more money out of my paycheck, because again, that wasn't explained to me. And then when it was like, girl, this is for you, right?
Yes.
And recognizing no away for your future. Yeah, think about your future. I know you think that you're 20 something and you're going to live forever. No, change your mindset.
And people don't realize, Angel, that you can use your 401k as collateral for a house. They will look at that as savings for you. And I don't think, that actually, like you said, in my 20s, I actually did that pretty early. So when I went to buy my house, we were able to use that as collateral. Yeah. They look at that as money that you have, because you are allowed to borrow from your 401k if you get in hard times with your house and your mortgage. So they do look at that as collateral. And I don't think people realize that. It could actually benefit you. People, some people don't even take advantage of the healthcare spending accounts, the HSAs, savings accounts. I'm sorry. They are also pre-tax money, so that lowers your tax requirement for the year, because you can stash money in there, and then when you hit a certain point, if you don't use it, you can actually use it to invest in stocks and mutual funds on the back end. So I don't think people realize these vehicles that you're being offered by your job, if you are fortunate enough to have those vehicles offered by your job, please use
Right.
them. They only help benefit you. I didn't understand that either when, you
Right.
know, we first were offered these. But now that you do, you're like, oh man, this is a great benefit
This is a wonderful thing.
moving forward, right? It's a way for
Right.
us to further invest in things around us, and it comes automatically out of your paycheck. Let me tell you, we have to learn to live off less.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
One of the best ways to save is to live off 75 to 80% of what you earn. Put 10% in your retirement funds, and then take 10% and invest it or put it in savings or somewhere for yourself for long term. That's just one mix that you can use. But I'm just saying, like, there's many mixes like that you can use. But live off less, and that way it gives you a little more space to save more. Now, that is not always practical depending on the season of your life. I'm going to caveat it with that. But as much as you can, as you move along, as like you said earlier, as your salary grows, start scaling back things that you can kind of do without. I know a lot of people have gotten rid of cable, right? That's
Right.
something monthly. You can take that money and throw that in a savings account. You were already spending it anyway. Just go ahead and move it somewhere else, right? So things like that, little changes can make such a big difference in our financial wellness.
Yeah. One of the things I do want to say to what you said is that FSA account. Using that FSA account is so helpful to people. And if you are in a space where you are fortunate enough to have that through your job, one, like Yolanda said, it is pre-tax money. Use it. Also, you never know what medical bills are going to come up.
Yep.
So again, we've said this before on the show. I fell and had a concussion. And being able to already have that money aside for my doctor's appointments, having now like, okay, so you have to go to the neurologist, you have to have eye therapy, and already having that money aside pre-tax that I don't have to worry, where's the money for my medical bills coming from, right?
Yes.
And yes, I have insurance, but I have copays. And already having that put aside pre-tax, that's another part of financial wellness, is
Yes,
knowing that this money is already in this space for me to pay for all my doctor's appointments, and I don't have to worry about taking that from my savings.
Yes.
Or what's going to happen to, oh wait, I was supposed to pay this bill, but I have to go through this number of doctor's appointments. So really utilizing these FSA accounts, because you don't know when a medical issue is going to come up. You don't know when your children are going to get sick,
Yes.
right? And you can use FSAs for your children.
Yep.
So recognizing the importance of that and how those things can help you financially. And I think sometimes we don't recognize how these other things that are offered by our jobs are a part of our financial wellness as well.
Yes, girl. And you brought up FSAs. That's another one too. And the one I was talking about was HSA, which is
Okay.
No, it's fine. It's the same thing where you're putting money away. It's just that FSA I think has to be used at the end of the year.
It does.
HSA
It has
you can roll over. And
Okay,
HSA
yeah, the
is not
FSA.
just a rollover at the end of the year. You can roll it to a new job. If they have another HSA, you can hold on to that money. You don't have to like get rid of it. But both of them, like you said, are pre-tax. And you brought up a very good point, because you know those wonderful bills that may pop up after you had a lab or something like that. You know how to, you still owe $75 or you still owe $50. Those accounts are so great for that, because like you said, I don't have to pull that from another account. It's actually already taken care. I can use money that's already in my healthcare account, and I don't have to pay for that. And you brought up another good point. Insurance, y'all. Okay, let's talk about this. We need to have
Let's
some
talk
life
about it.
insurance. I don't care if you got
Absolutely.
term life insurance or whole life insurance, right?
Let's get some
You need to have
insurance,
insurance.
please.
We got to stop these GoFundMes to bury people, right?
Get
It's
some
like
insurance.
we are leaving, you know, our families in really difficult situations when we don't get the proper insurance. And I understand insurance can be costly, but term life insurance is a lot cheaper than whole life insurance, and it will still cover you in the event of a death.
Yes,
You know,
it will.
whether it's 10, 25, whatever $1,000, that's still enough to cover your funeral and not leave your
it is.
family with a bill at the end. And I think like we have to start looking at insurance as a tool to be able to cover some of those things. You know, after we're gone. Like we shouldn't be
Right.
leaving our families with that burden. They're already going to be grieving. They're already
Yes.
going to, be upset. Also, taking care of, and this is another big one, and I admit I was guilty of this one too until like a year ago, getting our estate planning and papers together. Tell
I've had a
people
will.
what you want them to do with
Yeah.
your whatever you have left. I don't
Yeah.
care if it's a book that you want to give away. I don't care if it's a piece of jewelry. So many families end up torn and fighting over things after someone dies because we just never left our last will and testament so people know what to do with our stuff. Even we have to start looking at our digital assets now, right?
Yeah.
What
Yes.
do you want to happen with your Facebook account? What do you want to happen with your Instagram account? These things are very important because if nobody has any direction on this or you haven't left somebody in charge of this, they just stay there and there's nothing you can do about them. So,
Yeah. I will say the one thing I've been good about. So when I bought a house and I had that asset, I was like, oh, I have to get a will done because what happens to my house?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things my mother was always good about was like having a will. That was very much instilled in me. So I've always had a will. I need to update it. That's what I need to do. It needs to be updated, but I at least have one. And I will say this also, your living will. People don't always think about that.
Yes.
If by chance you're in a coma or you can't make
incapacitated.
it for yourself, somebody needs to know what to do. You do not want someone making a decision that is not the decision you would have wanted.
Yes.
So having a living will is very, very important. Making sure you have decided who is going to be your power of attorney and having that in writing is so important. Who will be able to make these decisions, whether they are financial or whether they are medical. If you are alive but can't speak for yourself, those things are important as well.
Yes, that should be all a part of your estate planning. And make sure you're picking reliable people who know your heart and know how you work. That is so important. The lawyer who handled mine, she was like, make sure you're picking someone that is not going to turn off the machine if you tell them not to turn off the machine. It sounds crazy, but these things happen. Like, that was a Tyler Perry movie, I remember. Remember where the new lady wanted to turn off the machine, but he wasn't divorced, thank God, because she's like, do everything you can to save. Girl, I watched those movies. I'm like, that was Diary of a Bad Black Woman, I think. And they talked about that. They talked about how, she knew that, do everything to save him. And the other lady was like, no, we could turn it off. And she's like, no, we're not turning it off. So you need to be thinking about that, thinking about who you would want in those positions. And that goes to the last D of financial wellness, which is due diligence, right? Not due diligence. It's, look, I got them all mixed up now, girl. We done talked about all of them. Anyway, whatever it is, it's like be diligent about, following up on that. You have to go back and recognize listen, it might not be a D, but this is what it's talking about. You have to go back and keep looking over what you have and doing updates and build your wealth and your legacy for your family. Again, like Dr. Angel said, we do not want our families to have to make hard decisions when we're incapacitated. It's actually wonderful when people do that planning ahead of time. I had to learn that too. And let me tell you, y'all, it's hard to think about dying when all you doing is living, right? Yeah. But we have to sit down and have these hard conversations because we just really want our will or whatever it is that we want for ourselves to be done in the end and not put that burden on anybody else in a time when we are incapacitated. I think one of the most loving things we can do, right, is to have that done ahead of time so there's no guessing and no stress for the people that are trying to pray for us and be around us and support us when we are having a medical crisis. So, or if death is imminent, making it as easy as we can for those that are going to remain here, to make decisions about our welfare. I think it's one of the most loving things that we can do. So,
Make it as possible.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things that I wanted to leave with you, there was a verse that I found. Like I said, all of this stuff, I love how it all ties back in. But wisdom is even better when you have money, and both are a benefit as you go through life. Wisdom and money can get you almost anything, but only wisdom can save your life. And that's Ecclesiastes 7:11 through 12. I love that verse because wisdom is far more valuable than money. It's that mindset. It's knowing,
Yes.
right? It's finding and knowing who you are and how your money doesn't make you, but it is a tool that you can use to get to the goals that you want to get to as a person, as an individual in your life. So, yeah.
Yeah. I used to
I
have
think
a
that's my
pastor
last say
who
on
used
that.
to always, yeah. I used to have a pastor that used to always tell us to pray for wisdom.
Yes. Yep. It will save your life. That's so true. When you are
Absolutely.
wise about where you go, who you associate with, what you do with your money, and how you spend your time, because time is also a non renewable resource, right? It's a non renewable resource. So we have to be so cognizant of how we use it. Again, it is a tool just like money. The
Yeah.
difference with time is it's not renewable. You can get more money, you can't get more
You can't
time.
get more time. Mm-mm.
And we all get the same amount, right? All
Yes.
of us. We all get the same amount of time. So you can't even say you keep it up with the Joneses with that one because we all get the same amount of time. Now, in
Right.
days, we know some of us can leave the earth before others, but as far as the days
Yeah.
go, we all get the same 24. It just depends on how you spend it. So,
Yes.
all right.
Yes.
Well, we always never want to leave you guys without resources, right, Dr.
Of
Angel?
course not. Of course not.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and put some resources up here for you.
Oh.
So the first resource we're going to leave you with, Dr. Angela and I have been talking about mindset, right? One of my favorite books about this is Think and Grow Rich by Dennis Kimbro, a Black choice. I love how he took Napoleon Hill's book, which he wrote, and he tailored it to mindset for Black wealth. And so it's an oldie but goodie. I think a lot of the things he talks about in there is still so relevant today. So I wanted to recommend that as a good read. And I'm pretty sure it's on Audible now. So y'all, if y'all don't want to read the book, get it on Audible and listen to it while you're in your car, you're walking, or you're on vacation. Go ahead and get your money mindset while you're on vacation, right? So, and Dr. Angel had a great book that she wanted to recommend.
Yes. So my uncle, who loves me, gave me this book because he wanted his niece to be a financially secure and well-versed financially woman. So Prince Charming isn't coming. How women get smart about money. My uncle gave me this book. So this is also an oldie book but goodie by Barbara Stanny, and it is also on Audible. But I think it's a good read, especially for those of us who want to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves financially as women. So you can find that on Amazon and you can find it on Audible. So again, you don't have to just read it. You can listen to it as you're in your car, as you're doing your walks, whatever you're doing, you can listen to it.
Thank you, Dr. Angel. I wanted to check that one out. I haven't read that one. I love the title. Prince Charming is a
Yes.
coming. That makes me chuckle every time. I think it's Cinderella every time you say that. The other site we wanted to leave you with was the Certified Financial Planner site. It is called letsmakeaplan.org. All right. So when we're talking about making a plan, we wanted to leave you with a resource where you could do that and find financial planners who can help you make a plan. That financial planners help you with insurance. They help you with budgeting. They can help you with planning out your goals and what you want to do and how to get there. We have a great financial planner ourselves. And so she told me this is one of the best sites to go to. Also, it lists those questions I told you for interviewing financial planners and gives you some direction on what to take with you when you go to see one. And the last site we have up here is The Motley Fool at fool.com. I don't think you could get any easier to remember, even though they tell you don't call nobody a fool. This one's a good site, okay? The Motley Fool is a great tool for people to learn to invest. They have basic 101 articles and things like that and resources on there for you to learn how to invest, to save, to budget. all those things, because we never want to leave you without a resource to do the things that we know will make your life better each day. So if you don't know where to start, pick up one of those resources, or just clickety clack on your little keyboard and jump on over to some of the resources that we gave to you, so that you can get your plan in place for your financial wellness.
Yes.
All right. I think this was a great show, Dr. Angel.
I think so too. It was really good. This is one of the best money talks I've had.
Girl, you know I love talking about money, because I believe we all got to get our money straight. It's too many places to go in the world and too many things to do for us not to be getting our money together. Because you know the world is opening back up, y'all. We need to have some money to go somewhere. And actually, I'm very proud of our nation, because they said actually during COVID, and probably because of stimmy checks and all that stuff like that, that people actually boosted their savings. We're at one of the all-time savings level. I don't know, with all these flights going out now, we might not be saving as much as we
People might be people might be using their savings to go away. I saw some flights to Maldives and stuff. So.
Yeah, look, some of those look. I've been looking at some of those sites on Instagram. They're making me want to go somewhere overseas. Right. The only thing that's stopping me is that a lot of these countries still don't have the vaccinations. So we still have to be a little cautious. Yeah, we still have to be a little cautious. We're very fortunate to live in the U.S. where we're ahead of the game a little bit. So with the vaccine. So, but that's great. I always enjoy talking with you. I always enjoy talking with our audience.
Yes,
that we do here. So, Dr. Angel, you want to go ahead and close this out?
Yes. So remember, everyone, please keep rising, and don't forget,
bring somebody with you. You don't want to keep all this goodness to yourself. Till we see you guys next week. We'll talk to you later. Nowhere to go but up, y'all. We're going up together.
Nowhere to go but up.
Nowhere to go but up.